There's a lot of baby radio shows online, but there's only one mother of Elvis radio.
Hello, you big mother.
Elvis Express Radio.
Thank you. You're a beautiful audience. Thank you very much.
Oh, yes, you certainly are a beautiful audience, and this is the fourth part of this week's show, as promised to you. Now, earlier this week, as you would have heard on the main show, Joe Crine interviewed a young chap, well, he was young at the time, Mr. Ron Brandon, who at the time was working for WTUP down there in Mississippi, and he got to not only be there for the Elvis interview, but he had the idea of recording the show that Elvis was performing down there at the Tupelo, Mississippi, Alabama State Fair. Well, he was told, as you will hear, how no. But fortunately, he was young enough to have a rebellious streak, and thankfully for us, all these years later, he recorded that show, or those shows. Anyway, let's get on with it. This is Joe Crine interviewing Ron Brandon for Elvis Express Radio.
Well, Mr. Brandon, this is Joe Crine from Elvis Express Radio. How you doing?
Good. Joe, just call me Ron, please.
Okay, Ron. Ron, could you tell us a little bit about yourself first, where you were born and raised?
Well, I was born actually very near Tupelo there. I was born literally, there is literally a crossroads called Endville, which is a very unique name for a place to live, which is probably about 5 miles from Tupelo. Lived there until, lived in a little town near Tupelo called New Albany, which is between Tupelo and Memphis on Highway 78 there. Lived there until I was 12, and then I lived in Memphis until I graduated high school there in '56, and moved back to Tupelo and went to work for WTUP.
Now, what did your parents do?
My dad was a butcher. My mom was a school teacher in her younger age, and then a housewife.
So now, how old were you when you started to do radio?
Well, and that's kind of an interesting story there, Joe. When I went into high school in Memphis at Central High School in the 10th grade, and I had an elective course that I could take, so I signed up to take typing, but they came back and said, no, you can't take typing, the class is full. And I said, well, you know, what can I take? And they said, well, you can take bookkeeping or radio. And, boy, bookkeeping sounded tough, so I said, let's do radio. And so I ended up taking 3 years of radio classes, and that's I got into radio as a hobby, ham radio, and I got the commercial engineering license, which is issued by the Federal Communications Commission here in the U.S., and that allows you to go to work for pretty much anybody involving or any business involving a transmitter, which of course includes all the radio and TV stations.
Now, what was the name of the station that you were with when you did this recording of Elvis?
WTUP.
Now, can
TUP
you?
as in Tupelo.
Okay. Now, can you tell me a little bit about that station? What kind of music did it play?
Well, all stations, well, not all stations, but certainly the stations in Tupelo. In those days, it was a very small station. There was a staff of only 4 people, the general manager, Jim Reese, a secretary, and an announcer, Charlie Watts, and myself, and my title was engineer. Very small station in a very small building there on the levee between Tupelo and East Tupelo. In those days, radio stations were required to have an engineer with a first-class engineering license that I had on the payroll. Every radio station had to have one. So when I got out of high school, WTUP hired me primarily to get that engineering license hung on their wall. So I tinkered with the equipment a little bit, and they let me run the control board and play records and so forth. And they had a young fella playing rock and roll in the afternoon. After school was out, about from 3 o'clock on. This was a daytime radio station, so they signed off at sunset. They went off the air at sunset. So he played rock and roll until from 3 o'clock until sunset. And, you know, I watched him, and he was talking on the phones to the girls and so forth. And boy, that looks like fun. So I told Jim Reese, the manager, if that guy ever quit, that I could do that. And Jim thought to himself, well, geez, then I would only have to pay one person instead of two. So subsequently, the guy did quit pretty quickly. And Jim said, okay, it's yours, have at it. Scared me to death, but I caught onto it pretty quickly.
So did you play rock and roll?
Yeah, we played rock and roll at that time. And the answer to the other part of your question, in those days, most stations did what was called block programming. In other words, they didn't do one thing the entire time. They would have 30 minutes of one type of music, country music maybe, and then 30 minutes of a special show like Tennessee Ernie Ford show I remember we ran, or 30 minutes of news, or 30 minutes of gospel. And there were two stations in town, WTUP, the station I worked for, and WELO. And WELO did not play any rock and roll at all in those days. There was a lot of country music. Country music was the dominant thing in the South in those days.
Sure.
And TUP was the only one playing any rock, and they played it, for a couple of hours there in the afternoon.
Now, do you remember spinning some Elvis?
Sure, yeah. Elvis, of course, this was in '56, so all of the Sun stuff was out, and he was up to, I guess he was up to Heartbreak Hotel. Hound Dog was out, Don't Be Cruel was out, so we were playing all that. The main difference was we were allowed to play the black artists, Chuck Berry and Little Richard and those kind of things that the kids just really loved, and nobody else would the parents just hated, and certainly no radio stations would play.
Right. Now, were you an Elvis fan?
I guess to some degree. I was certainly aware of him. When I lived in Memphis, I don't recall being really aware of him at all. But when I moved back to Tupelo, of course, I became very aware of him because he was so much in the news there, being a local hometown boy. And I enjoyed his music and so forth. But I was not like a diehard fan, but I enjoyed his music like I just like rock and roll.
Now, how did you find out that you were going to do the Tupelo Elvis Day?
I had only been working for the station since the summer, and this was in the fall, so I'd only been there a few months. And basically, Jim Reese, the manager, just says, look, Elvis, we knew Elvis was coming back to the fair. Jim was going to be the MC for the concerts, and he says, look, take one of those recorders and the big old microphone. We only had two microphones in the entire radio station, and so we had to take the studio microphone and the boom and an old bulky recorder, one-track recorder, reel-to-reel. And he says, load those up, take them down to the fair, and we'll do some interviews. And, I said, sure, fine, sounds like fun. And that's how we came to be at the fair.
Now, other than that, were you a part of any of the planning of that day or no?
I don't recall one way or another a long time ago, but there was not a great deal of planning. I mean, it was a very simple affair. It's not like people today, when they think of a show, they think of a big, elaborate, well thought out, well planned, very technical affair. In those days, it was extremely simple. It's just kind of show up. We were allowed to be behind the ropes alongside the stage because Jim, with his connections, and he being the MC, so we were allowed to set up alongside the stage. It was a very simple thing. You just kind of show up and do it.
Now, was this a big thing for Tupelo?
Oh, sure. This was the biggest thing in history. I've read that they had, and I don't even recall what it was, but this was certainly and probably still is the biggest thing that ever happened in Tupelo's history as far as worldwide publicity and that kind of thing.
Now, did you see the parade and all that, or were you too busy getting ready for the show?
Honestly, I don't even remember. I've seen pictures of the parade and so forth. If I saw it, it didn't make enough impression to even recall. In those days, I didn't even own a car, so I had to hitchhike to work, and I just don't even remember the rest of the day.
Can you describe to me how you set up to tape Elvis? And you said you had two different microphones and the reel-to-reel. How basically...
Well, we only had two microphones in the radio station, so one had to stay at the radio station, and we put the microphone that was in the studio, which is a big old bulky RCA microphone like you've seen in a lot of old movies, on a boom stand. And the last thing you'd want really, as opposed to what they have today, just a nice little portable hand mic. Well, we took that down, and the recorder, and in those days, a recorder was fairly heavy, bulky affair, not a simple thing that you just grab by the handle. I mean, this was something you had to grab with both hands and kind of wrestle it down there. So we had a table set up right alongside, as you faced the stage, we had a table set up right alongside the left part of the stage. The tent, the dressing room tent, was out back, and we thought we would set up alongside the stage there, and knowing that Elvis would come out of the tent directly to the stage, and he would have to just about trip over us to get to the stage. We just had a little card table set up there with a recorder and the microphone, and that's where we spent the time during the concerts.
Now, what did Charlie Watts say about interviewing Gladys Vernon and Nick Adams?
Well, Charlie was a cool guy, and I didn't get the impression that he was taken aback at all by it. It seemed, I was impressed that it seemed pretty routine to him. I thought it was certainly a big event in my 17-year-old life, but he seemed to take it in stride, and he wasn't nervous that I could tell, and I thought he did very good interviews, and I was quite impressed.
Now, did you get to meet Gladys Vernon and Nick Adams yourself?
Oh, sure. Yeah, well, we were standing right there, I mean, we were standing right alongside the recorder, and met them all, and hello, how are you? And of course, that was my only duty, just to turn on the recorder and say hello.
Now, how did Elvis seem while Charlie Watts was interviewing him?
Yeah, I'll tell you truthfully, Elvis just seems like he was just having a great time. You could just see the spring in his step. He was almost laughing, had a big smile on his face, and he just seemed like this is just about as good as it gets. I mean, I'm just having a great time. I got money in my pocket, got a big car to drive. I'm taking care of my parents. The girls are screaming for me, and I love the music, and let's go. I just don't think he could have been in a better mood that day.
Now, you tell me about a gentleman that was on the stage leading up to this. Yeah, tell me that story.
As far as recording, well, it was my thought at the time that he must have been with RCA, because he had put the big RCA logo dog up on the stage, right in front of us almost. And so I thought that he was probably up with RCA. I just didn't have any way to know who he was. He didn't identify himself at all. But after the interviews, I didn't know. I was just a kid out of high school. So he was the only guy up on stage, kind of fiddling with this or that, and so I asked him if I could record the concert. My intention had been to record it so I could play part of it back over the radio. Mm-hmm. And he said, "Hell no," as best as I can recall it. I mean, he's just very abrupt about it, and being a young kid, that just kind of struck me the wrong way. And so I thought, well, hell with him, and I kind of moved the table that had the recorder on it, and I just kind of moved it back up under the stage a little bit. And we had a long mic cord, so I took the mic cord, and of course there were people everywhere, and I don't remember what happened to him. I guess he was busy doing whatever he was doing, and I got busy doing what I was doing, and I don't recall even seeing him again. So I just stuck the microphone, just trailed the microphone, the mic cord out in front of the speaker, one of the horn speakers, and it's this big old boom mic, and it's sticking up at a very strange angle in front of the speaker. In a lot of the pictures, you can see it very plainly, and just left it there. And of course, being in front of the speaker, the volume was very loud, so I had to crank the volume down as low as I could get it on the recorder, and still it overmodulated and distorted, and to begin with, the sound coming out of those old horn speakers was just terrible. As far as I know, all they had was just basic amplification, and the frequency range of those speakers was very narrow. So the quality of the sound was just atrocious to start with, and then overmodulated on top of that. So what you ultimately heard was pretty poor audio.
Now, one more question about the man with the dogs. Do you think now that it's possible that that was Colonel Parker?
I suspect it probably was. In those days, I didn't even know the name Colonel Parker. Never heard of him. But in subsequently reading, some of the books over the years that said he was there, it would make sense that that was probably him.
Mm-hmm.
I don't know that there was anybody there from RCA, and he would have been the take charge kind of guy. So it would be my guess that was probably him.
Now, you taped both the shows, but one of the shows you only taped half of it. Was there a reason that you did that?
Yeah, there's a good reason. These were 30-minute reels of tape, so when one reel is finished, you gotta rewind, take the reel off, put another reel on, thread it up, and get so there's a lapse there. And I don't know. Again, this is a long, long time ago, so I don't have that great a memory. But I do know that was one of the problems, changing the reels of tape. And secondly, I don't remember when I sent the tape to Elvis if I sent him everything, or if in fact when RCA found the tape, if RCA, actually put out everything that was on the tape. I just don't remember.
Right. Now, what did you think of the show? How was Elvis?
Oh, I thought it was great. I just thought not only Elvis, but the experience was just great. That was. I had seen one what you would call rock and roll show before that. Some acts like Jerry Butler and the Impressions, and but this was different. It was louder. The girls were just absolutely nuts, and Elvis was just having a great time. I mean, it was just a big party. It was just a tremendous lot of fun.
You're lucky you wasn't crushed when they ran the stage.
Well, they were in front of the stage. We were on the side, so we were okay. The only problem, if you look at the pictures, you see all of those cops lining the stage at the afternoon show. We were complaining because they didn't need the cops there, number one, and they were blocking our view. But we were kind of on the side there, so even though it was kind of crowded, we weren't getting crushed like the people in front.
Well, tell me about the day. Was it a hot day? Was there a lot of people there?
Well, I don't remember. I know it was a sunshiny day. You can tell that from the pictures, but this was in September, so that can be kind of warm. But I don't remember one way or another, so it must have been kind of pleasant.
Was one show better than the other?
I thought so. I thought the afternoon show was better. I got the impression Elvis was a little more serious, and you can hear that a little bit in the evening show. I don't know. I don't know why that might have been. Maybe he thought the audience was a little more adult at night, or whatever. But he didn't seem to be quite as loose at night as he was in the afternoon there.
Mm-hmm. Okay. Now the show was all over, and you send a gift to Elvis. Can you tell me all about that?
Well, that was just kind of a spur of the moment thing. The quality was so lousy, I was disappointed, and I don't think I ever did actually play any of it over the radio. But I knew that, from what I'd heard and so forth, and you could just tell that Elvis was really close to his parents, and I thought it might be a nice souvenir for him. I didn't attach a great deal of importance to it, but I just dubbed off a copy, just ran off a copy, and sent it to him, and didn't give it that much thought. Didn't know if I'd ever hear back or whatever. But it wasn't a long period of time, maybe a couple of weeks or whatever. I just sent it regular mail to whatever address I had in Memphis. Mm-hmm. And it wasn't that long, a couple of weeks or whatever, that I got a nice little package back, which really surprised me. He sent, if I remember correctly, maybe half a dozen autographed pictures and a nice little note, just thanks, and, fairly straightforward.
Do you still have them?
No, that's why I'm laughing. No, I gave the pictures away. I thought these would be great prizes to give away over the radio, so I gave away the pictures on the radio. And I have no idea what I did with the note and the packaging, but it's long gone. Didn't save any of it.
Now, I had talked to you another day, and you told me about a '78 Sun record that you had.
Yeah, I did have at that time. I had a '78 RP. We were still playing. In '56, we still played some '78s. The 45s had come in and were taking over quickly, but when you would go to buy a record, sometimes all they would have would be a 78. And I had a 78 RPM Sun label, That's All Right Mama, that I'd gotten an autograph from somewhere, and I gave it to a young lady.
Oh my God!
and so it's long gone, and I couldn't today even tell you her name.
Oh my
But
goodness!
that's what you do, Joe, when you're 17 years old.
Now, in 1984, the Golden Celebration box set came out. Can you tell me what you thought? Well, you saw, obviously.
Yeah, I'll tell you what happened. I was working at a radio station in Charleston, West Virginia, and we got a promo disc, which I still have, a vinyl promo disc, advertising that the box set was coming, and of course they wanted airplay and so forth. And on the promo disc were the interviews, and none of the concert on the promo disc, but it did say that the concert was going to be on there. And boy, that got my attention, because in my head I had saved that concert and the interview tapes all those years, and I thought that I had the only copy. Mm-hmm. Then I looked around for my tapes and copy, and I couldn't find them. But in radio, I had moved many times. I had gotten divorced once, so they're a very transient business. And I thought, well, where in the heck is my tape? Did I leave it with my mom at her house or whatever? But I couldn't find it. And how in the world did RCA get a hold of it?
Right.
So I you couldn't find. There was no internet in those days, or that I was aware of. So you basically get on the telephone, start making phone calls. And I did, and I finally, I couldn't track down Charlie Watts, couldn't find him, couldn't find anybody that would have any knowledge whatsoever of the event, until I just called RCA in New York, basically described what I wanted. They put a guy from the A&R department on the phone, and cleverly I didn't even write, today I can't even tell you his name, didn't write it down, but I basically told him, what I wanted, and wanted to know how in the world, where did they ever get a copy of that tape? And he said it was simple. When Elvis had died, that they had found a copy of the tape in the closet in his bedroom at Graceland. And I said, Then I remembered, yep, I had sent him a copy. So that made sense, and I said, okay, thank you very much. See you later. Sorry that, I was sorry that neither Charlie or I got any credit, but RCA wouldn't have known unless they actually had the tape in the original box I sent to Elvis, and even then they wouldn't maybe know. I don't remember what was written on the box, and so they wouldn't know, and probably wouldn't care if they didn't know.
Well, that must mean a lot to you, knowing that Elvis kept that gift.
Well, it does. Now that I know the whole story, it really means that he must have cherished the tape. I don't know, but it may be true, unless you correct me, that may be the only recording he had of his mom.
They say. They say. Yeah. Now,
so he would have saved it, I'm sure, for that reason alone, aside from the concert.
Now, you were contacted by Memphis Recording Service to do the new release?
Yeah, well, here's what happened there. Of course, that was the end of the story in '84. Mm-hmm. I didn't pursue it further. Didn't have the money to, didn't have the time to it, and really didn't know any way to pursue it any further. So then, now I'm long since retired out of radio and have a lot of time, and of course the internet is just gangbusters these days. So the early part of this year, I was just browsing through the internet and came across, I guess, the Elvis Information Network website, mm-hmm. And I said, "Well, geez, this is a whole new ball game here. Maybe I can find Charlie Watts or track down, find the people who would, be able to at least disseminate the story and get the real story out, because I had never seen anything relative to how the concert had been recorded and so on and so forth."
Right.
So I did. I contacted Piers there at EIN, and mm-hmm. he put me into, I don't remember the lady's name, but I had a number of emails that I exchanged with one person or another, and was able to find Charlie Watts and talk to him. He lives in one of the southern states and is kind of retired and doing well. And Charlie confirmed that he had had a dub of the interviews, which he had saved, but he had never had a copy of the concert. So indeed, the copy of the concert that I had and the dub that had been sent to Elvis were the only copies. So what the RCA guy had said must have been true. That's what happened. It stayed there at Graceland all that time until RCA came across it.
So I just heard the release on the Memphis recording. The Tupelo welcomes Elvis Presley home.
Mm-hmm.
It's fantastic. I just wanted to tell you that.
Well, we all wish the quality was a little better, but it's the Elvis that you've heard and seen in later years in Las Vegas and when he was touring and so forth is so different from the Elvis that you hear on that tape that it really is a good thing that it's there and recorded and that you get a chance to hear him in that era of his life, because I think he was certainly a different person then than from later on.
Well, what are you doing now?
Not too much of anything. I retired out of radio after 30 years of radio and TV and that kind of nonsense here in Charleston, South Carolina, and my wife and I own a nightclub, but don't work at it too hard. Have a good staff, thankfully, and I play golf and basically take life easy.
Now, I always ask this because I'm writing a book actually on it. Can you tell me where were you and how did you find out that Elvis had passed away, and what did you think?
Sure. Yeah, at that time, my wife and I owned and published what was in the industry called a music tip sheet. In other words, it was a weekly magazine that went to radio stations and record companies regarding what radio stations are playing, what records, and that type of thing. And we had several correspondents around the country. And the lady, Courtney Kaufman, who was our correspondent in Memphis, we were sitting there on a Thursday, I remember it very well, and she called and she said, you're just not going to believe what happened. And she says, Elvis died. And I said, no, come on, that's got to be some kind of baloney story. And she being right there in Memphis, she was hearing it on the radio. And she said, no, it's true. And, it was hard to believe, but, I believed her. And, of course, it was true.
Yeah. Now, what do you think about his ever-ending popularity?
That I really, somebody with more education and whatever than me would have to explain that. I don't understand it other than there were several things that are intriguing. He is probably one of the very greatest rags to riches story. So he was extremely talented, extremely personable, and he was a role model in that he was always well behaved. Well, certainly in the earlier years, polite, well brought up, and so forth. But more, I think he was in the right time at the right place. I don't think the story can be duplicated, because in those days, with the media, there weren't all the various facets and outlets of media that there are today. So I know that he could when he was on TV, he could just dominate TV because there were 3 networks or whatever. And when he was on radio, a rock and roll station in a market in those days could have over half the entire listening audience. That can't be done today. It's too split and too diversified and so forth. So I'm not sure that we'll ever see the domination of entertainment like he did. I don't suspect we'll ever see that again.
Yeah. Well, Ron, I myself and Lee from Elvis Express Radio and all the fans would like to thank you for looking that guy dead in the eye after he said to you, "Hell no," and taping that. I mean, us fans cannot thank you enough.
Well, I wish I could remember what I might have said to him, but we've all been 17 and at one time, and there's still there's a little rebel in you when you're that age, you know. And had he been really nice about it, I would have probably accepted and said, "Oh, okay." But he was such a butthole about it. I thought, well, I'll just go ahead and do what the heck I want, and let the cards fall later.
Well, thank God you did. Well, thank you, Ron.
You're very welcome.
You're listening to the station that does return the sender.
Return the sender.
The Elvis Express Request Show.
Elvis, welcome to Tupelo.
Thank you, sir.
Certainly nice to meet you, Elvis. And I'd like to ask you just a few questions. I know you're in a terrible hurry. First of all, how does it feel, all this tremendous reception, to be back home after these years and have everybody come out to see you and meet you like this?
It really feels great. I've been looking forward to it for a long time.
Have you met a lot of your old friends tonight?
Sure have. I've met a lot of people I went to school with and a lot of my kin folks that I haven't in a long time. And it's really been a great day.
Oh, I know it has. It's been a great day for the people of Tupelo, too. They had a terrific parade in your honor this afternoon. I wish you could have seen it.
I wish I could have been here, but I
great.
couldn't make it.
Well, we met your parents tonight, and they're awfully proud of you, and I know you're proud of them. And Tupelo is certainly proud of you. I'd like to ask you a couple of questions other now before we quit. One is, how do you feel about the reaction of the teenagers, like the young lady who jumped on the stage this afternoon and the way they act down in the audience? How do you feel about it?
Well, I really enjoy it. I mean, I think it's real great that they care that much about you, you know. And I've had people ask me that I think it was silly. I do not. I think it's wonderful. I'm just glad that they think enough of me.
Well, they certainly do think enough of you, and I think that's evidenced by the fact that they're out there just chomping at the bits right now for you to come on out. And I wonder if you have anything you'd like to say to all the people of Tupelo and your friends and relatives here.
Well, I'd like to say to all the people that brought me down here, Mr. Ike Savory and the mayor and the governor and all, thanks for giving me the most wonderful time of my life and all the wonderful people that come out to see us.
Elvis, thank you so much. It's been terrific to interview you. Would you like to say one thing about your movie before we sign off?
Well, it'll be out in November. It should be released the 1st of November. That's all I can say about it.
Have they planned any kind of premiere for it?
No, not yet. I wish I knew.
Well, good luck to you, Elvis, and thanks a million for the interview. We'll see you.
There you go, brilliant stuff. Ron Brand. And well done to Joe there for doing another brilliant interview for Elvis Express Radio. And that was the interview that WTUP down there in Tupelo conducted with Elvis Presley on the 26th of September 1956. And a little Ron Brandon standing there next to Elvis and the Charlie Watts doing the interview there. Now, you can get that interview and the recordings from those classic concerts on the new Memphis Recording Service release. Tupelo welcomes Elvis Presley home. It's a fantastic collector's edition. It comes with a great booklet. It's really, really worthwhile. It's just a few pounds. It's under £10 of most groups like Amazon and Play.com, so go and check those out. Now, we're going to play you a few songs from those classic day. Brilliant stuff. Love to have been there. And we're going to kick off with the afternoon show. It's Heartbreak Hotel.
All right, ladies and gentlemen, boys and girls and everybody else, the great moment that you've waited for, the one and only Elvis Presley. Ladies and gentlemen. Yeah. Here's a sad song, friends. A real sad song. Goes something like this. This is a sad song, and it's not only sad, it's plumb pitiful, the way we do it. And this song, friends, was the backside of Heartbreak Hotel. On the record, we had the very wonderful Jordan Ayers singing with us, and we'd like to call him back out here to help us do this song called I Was the One, with Jordan Ayers.
there you go. There you go. Yes, it's a shame they were so distorted, but we still have them anyway. And I'll tell you what, the Memphis Recording Service release of Tupelo Welcomes Elvis Presley Home is one hell of a release. But you also, if you haven't got it, you need to get the DVD that came out a couple of years ago, because the guys at the Memphis Recording Service did a fantastic job of overdubbing the recordings to the film footage, and there's so much footage there we've never seen before up until that release date. It's just great. It's the only Elvis Presley concert from the 1950s that we have in such a big clump and with sound. It's a must-have for every Elvis fan's collection. Right, well, I hope you've enjoyed this little interview and a little look back into the world of Elvis Presley back there in 1956 in Tupelo. I'm going to play out now with Elvis's last performance of the evening show. It's the classic Hound Dog.
As a great philosopher once said,
and get your checkbook now. Come on everybody, sign into your PayPal account. Come on everybody, take a real deep breath and repeat after me. I wanna donate now. I wanna donate now. Hey, 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 donate to Lee.